They aren't gone. They've simply stepped away. The spiritually awakened aren't vanishing from the world. They're slipping out of the noise. They're walking away from chaos, from meaningless conversations, from the constant chase that once hypnotized them. They're not hiding. They're healing. And when you awaken to a higher consciousness, you start to see that disappearance isn't escape. It's elevation. You've probably felt it too. That quiet distance growing between you and the world around you. It's not depression. It's not disconnection. It's a realignment. The more you awaken, the more you crave silence, authenticity, and truth. The old world, with its shallow energy and constant distractions, begins to feel foreign. You stop wanting to fit in. You start wanting to breathe. This is what most people never understand about spiritual awakening. It's not about becoming more social. It's about becoming more selective. The awakened ones used to be everywhere, working the same jobs, following the same routines, living inside the same illusions. But as awareness grows, they begin to see the cracks in the system, the way society runs on noise, competition, and fear. They begin to feel the heavy pressure of pretending, and so they quietly step back. Not because they've lost interest in life, but because they've found something deeper. When you awaken, your frequency changes. You no longer resonate with gossip, drama, or chaos. You find yourself exhausted after small talk and fake smiles. You start craving solitude the same way others crave attention. And that's why awakened people seem to disappear, because they've realized that solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. In silence, they find what the world keeps distracting them from: peace. It's not that they've stopped caring. It's that they've stopped trying to explain themselves to people who can't understand. They no longer chase validation because they've discovered inner confirmation. They no longer seek to impress because they finally know what truly matters. The awakened don't need applause, they need alignment. So they choose peace over popularity, truth over trends, purpose over pleasure. If you've been feeling like you're drifting away from the world, you're not falling behind. You're stepping into a higher rhythm. Society rewards noise, but spiritual awakening rewards stillness. That's why the awakened seem invisible. They've stopped performing. They're not trying to be seen anymore. They're trying to see clearly. And in that shift, they begin living a quieter, slower, and more intentional life. The truth is, awakened people don't disappear from society. Society drifts away from them. The modern world feeds off distraction. It wants you scrolling, consuming, reacting. But when you awaken, you start choosing differently. You no longer find joy in arguing, complaining, or competing. You no longer feel comfortable in low-energy environments. You start protecting your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. The irony is that while the world sees them as disappearing, they're actually expanding inwardly. They're learning, observing, and creating new realities. They're healing their minds, cleansing their energy, and strengthening their intuition. They're building invisible kingdoms of awareness, not out of arrogance but necessity, because once you've seen the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you've felt genuine inner freedom, you can't return to the cages you once called comfort. It's almost poetic how the awakened disappear. One day they're in every conversation, trying to fix everyone. The next they're quiet. They no longer argue. They no longer chase closure. They've realized that peace doesn't come from changing the world. It comes from mastering their response to it. That's the hidden transformation. When silence becomes strength and distance becomes wisdom. You'll notice, the more someone awakens, the more invisible they become to those still lost in illusion. The world operates on appearance. It rewards what's loud, dramatic, and visible. But awakened people operate from energy. They move in calm confidence with no need for validation. They walk among others unseen, not because they're weak, but because they've learned that true power doesn't need to announce itself. It radiates quietly. This disappearance is not withdrawal. It's purification. Think of it like a caterpillar disappearing into its cocoon. To the outside world, it looks like isolation, but inside, transformation is happening. The awakened are going through that same inner metamorphosis, shedding old identities, old fears, old energies. When they emerge, they won't be the same. They'll return, but lighter, wiser, freer. But here's the secret most don't realize. Disappearing is part of awakening. When you start questioning everything, the system, the culture, the fake connections, it naturally leads you to step away. You need that distance to detox from the illusions. You can't see clearly if you're still surrounded by the fog. That's why solitude becomes sacred. In the silence, you start hearing truth again. You reconnect with yourself, and you remember what you came here for. It's not easy. There are days when it feels lonely. You'll miss the old connections even if they were shallow. You'll crave being understood. But then something shifts. You stop needing external understanding because you start understanding yourself. You realize the old world never truly saw you anyway. They only saw the version of you that served their comfort. When you awaken, that version dies, and that's when your real life begins. The ones who are disappearing aren't giving up on humanity. They're just no longer participating in its illusions. They're building new ways of living, new communities, new consciousness. You might not see them in crowds or on social media, but you'll feel their presence in the quiet ripple of change happening around the world. They're the silent builders of a new era, those who've chosen consciousness over conformity. Sometimes people ask, if they're so awakened, why don't they fix the world? But the truth is, the world doesn't change through force. It changes through frequency. The awakened are shifting the energy silently, from the inside out. Every time they choose peace instead of conflict, awareness instead of reaction, they raise the vibration of the collective. That's how real change happens, quietly, consistently, invisibly. They've stopped talking about awakening and started living it. They've stopped posting quotes and started embodying wisdom. They don't preach enlightenment. They express it through presence, calmness, and compassion. You can feel their energy even in silence. Grounded, steady, real. They may not be visible, but they are everywhere, holding the world together from behind the scenes. And maybe that's what this era is teaching us, that visibility is overrated. The loudest people are rarely the wisest. The awakened ones don't need stages. They need inner stability. They don't need followers, they need authenticity. In a world obsessed with exposure, they've chosen expansion, the kind that happens quietly, internally, where it actually matters. So if you're one of those people who feels like you've disappeared, don't fight it. You're not fading. You're evolving. You're not lost. You're being refined. Your isolation is not a punishment, it's preparation. You're learning to see through illusions, to walk with clarity, to carry light even in dark times. The world might not notice your transformation yet, but one day it will, because truth always reveals itself even when hidden. You were never meant to stay in the noise. You were meant to rise above it. That's why your soul rejected the chaos. Not because you're better, but because you're different. You came to bring awareness, not attention. To bring presence, not performance. To bring depth, not drama. The world may not understand that yet, but one day it will look around and realize that the calmest people, the ones who walked away, were actually leading the quiet revolution. So let the world think you disappeared. You know the truth. You're just operating on a higher frequency now. You've stopped trying to survive in chaos and started learning how to thrive in clarity. You've stopped chasing validation and started cultivating peace. That's not disappearance. That's transformation. And maybe the real message is this. The awakened don't disappear to escape society. They disappear to build something better. They step back so they can return stronger, more centered, more conscious. The real power moves in silence, not because it's hiding, but because it doesn't need to shout. So if you've been wondering why you feel so unseen lately, remember, that's the universe's way of pulling you out of noise and into purpose. You're not invisible. You're being refined for visibility that actually matters, the kind that comes from authenticity, wisdom, and peace. And when you're ready, you'll reappear, not as who you were, but as who you've become, clear, powerful, and fully awake. If this connected with you, thank you for watching until the end. Like and subscribe. You're part of the quiet shift happening right now, a movement of awareness, truth, and higher consciousness that will soon light up the world.